On April 19th of 2024, we saw the release of an incredibly popular album which topped the charts for a long time and made an undeniable mark on the cultural landscape of 2024. However, at every corner, it seemed that there was a controversy waiting. From the whole Tortured Poets aesthetic, blocking others on the charts, too big of a dominance on said charts, the double album, and finally, some of the lyrics that this album contained. Every single detail was overly scrutinized by the general public or Stan Twitter. I'm gonna say something that might be slightly controversial considering that I'm talking about an album that spent like 15 weeks at the top of the Billboard charts, but I think that this record is criminally underrated. I also think that many people misunderstood the premise of it. And listen, I saw so many crazy takes about the messaging of this album, and I feel like a need to partially respond to some of them. Well, I mean, it's been a year, but you know, I still feel the need to do it. Also, I want to explain why I think that this is a standalone gem in Taylor's discography. I'll talk about each of the songs briefly, and we're gonna talk about their lyrics, their production, as well as address some of the critiques that people had of them. And I also do really want to observe some of the more overarching themes that this album contains, as well as some evolutionary changes in the way that Taylor Swift writes songs. So yeah, I will be focusing on the lyrics a lot. Hi, my name is Freyr. I am your favorite local forest gremlin and also a big pop culture enthusiast and a Polish sociology student. I do videos about a lot of different stuff, specifically Eurovision. That was kind of my main shtick, I'd say. And now I'm trying to do more videos about other stuff as well, because the entire premise of this channel is for me to make videos about stuff that I loved growing up and still love now. So basically whatever comes, shows, music, movies, books, everything is gonna be covered here. Some of the videos that I have on their way include my full depth analysis of The Great Impersonator by Halsey. We're also gonna be focusing on this bad boy over here, Ranger's Apprentice by John Flanagan, which is a book that fully raised me. We're also gonna be diving into Percy Jackson, the BBC show Merlin, a lot more albums, returning to Eurovision a bit. Like it's gonna be fun. So if any of that sounds like something you would enjoy, please consider subscribing to the channel and sticking around to see what the next videos are gonna be. You can also follow me on all of my socials, which are listed in the description box below. Quickly, before we start talking about this album, I do want to list my credentials. I've been a Swiftie since Folklore. That was the album that fully, I want to say, turned me into a Swiftie. It came at a very crucial time in my life and really changed it. As a result, I love that album very deeply, and since then I've been non-stop on the Swiftie train. Taylor has been my most listened to artist since 2020 when I discovered Folklore on Spotify, so I would say I know her music pretty well. I also went to the Eras tour.
And clap!
This. I also have my friendship bracelets. I feel like that's gonna be a sensory issue. I'm also very sorry, I'm not gonna keep this light on because if the battery runs out in this, I will cry. This is my most prized possession, so yeah, I need to take care of it. Now, before we get into the actual album, I feel like we need to talk about the entire premise of it. And I think Taylor explained it very well with the prologue that we get to this album, or what she called an insummation. At this hearing, I stand before my fellow members of the Tortured Poets Department with a summary of my findings, a debrief, a detailed rewinding, for the purpose of warning for the sake of reminding. She is standing in front of the Tortured Poets Department to debrief on some of her relationships, some of the stuff that has happened over the past couple of years. And the department in question is us. She is telling us the stories of her life that we didn't know of before. It's not just retelling the stories as well, it's also warning us of potentially ending up in similar situations. As you might all unfortunately recall, I had been struck with a case of a restricted humanity, which explains my plea here for temporary insanity. You see, the pendulum swings. Oh, the chaos it brings. Leads the caged beast to do the most curious things. This refers to all of the turmoil she's experienced and serves as sort of a recap of her actions, and also stating that maybe some of the stuff she's done in relation to all of these relationships he ended up in might have been a case of like temporary insanity. And since we are the Tortured Poets Department, we are judging what she's presenting in front of us. So this is another plea for like our empathy. The manic episode theme though is gonna be quite important to this album. Lovers spend years denying what's ill-fated. Resentment rolling away galaxies we created. Stars placed and glued meticulously by hand next to the ceiling fan. The first time I read this reminded me of those lyrics in Cardigan. You know, you drew stars around my scars and now I'm bleeding. This to me means trying to make a relationship work, but ultimately it doesn't. It's just a temporary situation. She was doing her best to deny that fate, but ultimately there's just nothing that she could do. She had to hand glue these stars because they were not falling into place themselves, meaning that this relationship was an uphill battle from the very beginning. Tried wishing on comets, tried dimming the shine, tried to orbit his planet. Some stars never align. Gluing these stars yourself doesn't make them magically align. A relationship is an effort from both of the partners. So if she was gluing the stars and he was doing nothing, it was always going to fall apart. And in one conversation, I tore down the whole sky. The breakup happens. By tearing down the sky, you tear down the effect of your work with the hand gluing of the stars. You know, tearing down the sky, something that seems so stable that we see every day, kind of shows how easily destructible this relationship was if even the sky, something that we treat as a constant, was able to be turned down by a single conversation. Spring sprung forth with dazzling freedom hues, then a crash from the skylight bursting through. Something old, someone hallowed, who told me he could be brand new. This is the spring that we kind of see in Florida, and of course later, this is referred to as her sparkling summer. She's single, she's performing on the Eras Tour, she's technically living a great life, but then a lightning comes into it and basically reignites the flame of love again. And so I was out of the oven and into the microwave, out of the slammer and into a tidal wave. How gallant to save the Empress from her gilded tower, swinging a sword he could barely lift. But loneliness struck at that fateful hour, low-hanging fruit on his wine-stained lips. Not many people could write something like that. The first two verses basically entail that she got burned twice by a similar flame. Her previous relationship of 6 years ended, and then also this sort of like summer fling also ended, and both of them burned her. I also feel like the descriptions of the oven and the microwave also mean something. She basically got burned by two different kitchen devices, I guess. I don't think I'm explaining this well, but I love this metaphor so much. It's great. I'm sorry, and this might be very stupid, but the knight wielding a sword that rescues a princess from a gilded tower, I'm sorry, but this immediately just reminds me of Shrek. But like, not Shrek himself, but the Prince Charming, you know, when in second part he goes on to rescue Fiona and turns out she's already been rescued and now is an ogre. Is Prince Charming a stand-in for Maddie Healy in this case? Wait, because like low-key, it kind of makes sense. And the theatrics, and then later in The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived, there's the kicking down the line. I think I'm onto something.
And clap!
But okay, back to the in summation. He never even scratched the surface of me. None of them did. In summation, it was not a love affair. I screamed while bringing down my fists to my coffee-ridged desk. It was a mutual manic phase. It was self-harm. It was house and then cardiac arrest. None of these relationships went anywhere below the surface level, despite that one of them lasted for 6 years. Both of these relationships were supposed to be sort of like a band-aid, a cure for the hurt she's experienced before, but instead, they were just temporary solutions that only led to more pain being felt in the future. And also, we get another like metaphor for how quick these relationships were. You know, first we see the house arrest, which obviously lasted longer, and then cardiac arrest, which strikes like this. A smirk creeps onto this poet's face, because it's the worst men that I write the best. Now that is a bar. She knows what her strong suit is. She knows what brings her catharsis, and that is writing music. And so I enter into evidence, my tarnished coat of arms, my muses acquired like bruises, my talismans and charms, the tick, tick, tick of love bombs, my veins of pitch black ink, all's fair in love and poetry. She shows up in front of the Tortured Poets Department hurt, but she's also made art about that hurt, and now she is ready to present it to us. This installation basically describes what the entire album is about, but also gives us a timeline of events and sets some important themes for the album, you know, like for example, the manic episode, the house arrest. All of that comes back in different songs. Aside from that, I actually really love the metaphor of the Tortured Poets Department as well. That has so much meaning to it. With a word like department, the first thing that kind of comes to mind is, you know, like an office setting, very, very formal place, you know, basically like an institution. And she's standing in front of that institution to plead for empathy. And as we know, like, formal institutions aren't really that empathetic. But also, I think that the Tortured Poets Department is the metaphor for consumers. The way consuming music works nowadays is very, very formulaic. There's basically an album release, it charts, some people make think pieces on Twitter on why this album is horrible, others think completely different, then the artist goes on tour, performs the album, and then we kind of wrap it all up and we move on to the next thing. It's this kind of cycle that obviously existed for a long time, but now specifically is very short in comparison to even a decade ago. In like 2 weeks, I feel like everybody forgot about the quote-unquote controversial lyrics that this album contained, and they just moved on. But then again, the Tortured Poets Department does break the mold in more ways. This album isn't for a random consumer. It's for the fans. It's for the people who know her life story and who have either resonated with it, followed it, who understand her struggles and who understand the way that she thinks about relationships. And I feel like that's why this album didn't connect for some people. You first have to understand the artist and how they create in order to end up understanding what they have created. Not every piece of art can be put through the same like formulaic way of judging it and defining whether it had any cultural impact or something like that. But now, enough of me yapping about the installation, because it's already been very long. I am very, very sorry, but again, that's what you signed up for by clicking this video. So this is actually your fault, not mine.
So we moved to LA. My father gets a job at the Palm restaurant. My Uncle Junior works there, who was a Jehovah's Witness, believe it or not. He went from Catholic to Jehovah.
I'm judging you, by the way. And let's move on to the actual songs on this album. Let's see how they break the mold and what stories they tell. And we're going to be starting off with the lead single to this album, which is called Fortnight. I think what this track accomplishes very well is setting some themes for the future. But like, as opener tracks go, I don't think that this is like that big of a standout. It isn't as attention grabbing as some of different openers for Taylor albums. I mean, State of Grace, Willow, Lavender Haze, those are pretty tough competitors to beat in that regard, or even Fearless. I mean, Fearless is a perfect song. But still, I feel like Fortnight does its job well, mainly for the narrative reasons and not necessarily for the musical reason. It sets some themes that we later see reappear in different songs. Like, for example, Florida gets mentioned here. We get a song called Florida. We get a verse about a car. And a car is later very important in The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. So I actually kind of like this as a setup for different songs. I think this is really, really cool. This song can also be related to the last song that we got from the Midnight's era. Well, technically last, because You're Losing Me was technically, well, okay, one of the last songs that we got from the Midnight's era, which is Hits Different.
Fucking idiot.
They forgot to take her away, and in Hits Different, they were just about to take her away. We also get a lyric in Fortnight that I feel like encapsulates this entire project very well. I love you. It's ruining my life. And I am not surprised why this was the first lyric that we really got to see as a part of the back cover for the Tortured Poets Department. We see the ruin and the distress throughout this album so many times. I was a functioning alcoholic till nobody noticed my new aesthetics. To me, at least feels like a line that clearly shows how Taylor was in a very bad place, but we couldn't necessarily notice. It's something that we see explored a little bit more in, for example, I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. The lines, your wife waters flowers, I wanna kill her, are clear indications that we are not in the right state of mind. Also, I kind of love that Taylor is channeling her inner Wendy Williams with this. Clap if you ever wanted to kill somebody.
Clap if you've ever wanted to kill somebody.
All my mornings are Mondays, stuck in an endless February. One of the most genius lines I've ever seen. I'm sorry, some people didn't like that line, but I think it's so fucking genius. It shows the listener that that grim state wasn't just temporary. It was something that went on for a very long time. Also, Mondays are like the most dreaded day of the week because you have to get up, go to work, you know, stuff like that. And February is technically the shortest month, but also personally, I hate February. I think like all of it checks out so well. It's such a good lyric. On the musical front, I don't think this song hits you over the head with the production, but I think it's very nice. And I mean, okay, many people came for this album because of its production. I personally don't have a problem with it. I think it's really, really great. And some songs I was at first like a little like, okay, interesting, and we're gonna get to those. But here, I actually think that the synths really work, and I personally adore the outro of this song. Also, Post works so well with Taylor as like her backing vocalist, and then later when he gets to do the bridge, which by the way, he gets to do the bridge on the opening track of an album. Like that is iconic. But like he does an exceptional job here. The bridge, he sounds incredible. I also love how he's just like this echo behind Taylor when she sings. I also love the little like ding sound that is throughout the song. And I love you. It's ruining my life. I think it's like right before the first chorus we hear it for the first time, which apparently this is a sound that typewriters make when you finish you know, a line and you have to switch to a different line, you know, when I don't really know how typewriters work. I'm sorry. I am a Gen Z teenager. Well, I'm not a teenager, actually. Well, damn. But I think that sound really adds to the aesthetic of the album, you know, the Tortured Poets, the typewriters. It all makes sense in my mind, okay? Fortnight just really makes sense as an opener for me, and it also shows us that weirdly the more important relationship for this album is gonna be the one that lasted shorter, and it's pretty evident here. Now, Fortnight obviously did receive a music video, and controversially, I think that this was the only Grammy that Tortured Poets could have possibly won at the 2025 Grammys, and I low-key feel like it was robbed. Listen, I know I'm biased. Again, hello. I'm sorry, that music video is just so perfect. It's so beautiful, and the aesthetic of it is, it's everything to me. We get to see the mental asylum that quickly transforms into this corporate almost setting with the typewriters. That very clearly recalls back to the installation when, you know, Taylor is standing in front of the Tortured Poets Department. She is not feeling well, but she still clocks into work, makes music, makes art, and puts it out. And we get to see it and then judge it on the internet. It also feels like this kind of corporation feeling of how music is created nowadays and how it's consumed and how the creative process of making art is now so commercialized, and it all comes down to business. Post plays the romantic interest here, and the fact that they are, you know, in the same place, they're working together, but there is this like separation between them. You see the feelings, the uncertainty. This, in my opinion, comes back to a certain lyric that we see in Fortnite, which is run into you sometimes, ask about the weather. Now you're in my backyard, turn into good neighbors. So this could be about like how Taylor and Matty, who she probably sings about here, have mutual friends or work at a similar place, maybe record at a similar studio. I do feel like I have to wrap this up because I'm only on song 1 and I've already been recording for like 30 minutes, maybe even, but I do feel like I have to move on. However, I only think that what would be fair is a whole video about this particular music video because it's so genius and only that would suffice, but I don't know if I'm gonna have time for that. Maybe one day I'm gonna rank like Taylor Swift music videos. I think that would be fun. That's an idea for a different day. Let's move on to the Tortured Poets Department, the titular track.
Straight from the Tortured Poets Department.
This was a song that took me a long time to get behind, I want to say, which feels like a controversial opinion because I know a lot of people really love this song. I didn't at first. And maybe it's because around this song, I started to notice that the sound of this album was not at all what I was predicting, and that kind of maybe threw me off a little. Or maybe it was the Golden Retriever Charlie Puth line. Maybe that was it. It took me a lot of brain power to understand what she was doing there, but like low-key, I just thought to myself, hey, she's just being ironic. This is just irony. You don't have to read into every single line like it's some sort of like code. Sometimes she's just taking the piss out of the situation. And I kind of love that. I think that was the purpose of that entire section with the Golden Retriever, the chocolate, the Charlie Puth. It's nonsense. And I think that is the perfect thing to use to show how nonsensical maybe this relationship was. Didn't feel right and didn't feel natural. Looking back, it feels like she was going just crazy. Taylor might use sarcasm here, but the underlying message is still pretty serious. You know, she saw a soulmate in that person. She saw a soulmate in them, and then he just dipped. He left. And now that he's gone, who is going to decode him? You know, who's going to understand all of the layers that form his character? It seems like nobody. No fucking body even. Some of the lyrical highlights for me in this song include obviously the Patti Smith and Dylan Thomas line, which had all of us Googling, who are those people? Because we are all uneducated.
Who the hell is this bitch?
You're not Dylan Thomas. I'm not Patti Smith. This ain't the Chelsea Hotel. We're modern idiots. So both Dylan Thomas and Patti Smith were poets and artists who would frequently reside at the Chelsea Hotel in Manhattan. This line is very self-deprecating, which we do see a lot of in this album, so I guess prepare for that. When compared to these legendary artists, these two are nothing but modern idiots. They are not iconic, they are not legendary. They're just idiots. Now, another lyric I really, really love is, "I dare you take my ring off my middle finger and put it on the one people put wedding rings on. And that's the closest I've come to my heart exploding." Okay, Pain. She thought she was going to get engaged to this man. She thought she was gonna marry him. And she thought that she was so close to achieving that. Oh my God. The heartbreak. Okay, I was dismissive of this song at first, but it did kind of grow on me. I kind of like, you know, sad, sarcastic bops. It's just a genre that really speaks to me as a person, I feel like. The production is also really nice. It kind of does remind me of that like soothing, sparkling sounds of stuff like Bejeweled or Suburban Legends maybe even. And I kind of like that. Also, the vocals in this song, ooh, I love when Taylor hits notes like these. They're so like airy and ethereal. It's everything to me. My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys is up next. The production of it is more upbeat, but the message of it is still on a very sad side of things. She sings about a relationship in which she feels like she's being overlooked, but she's still in denial about it. But first, pull the string and I'll tell you that he runs because he loves me. She does what she can for this relationship, but there's only so much you can do yourself, and when the favorite toy of his has already been broken, aka Taylor. I also wonder if the broken toy can be a metaphor for like a broken spirit. He broke his favorite toy, aka broke her will to fight for this relationship, made her give up. These doll and toy metaphors are all over the song. I think that they are used to show us a person that kind of flexes a new toy like children do. You know, you get the new Hot Wheels or whatever children are playing with these days, mostly with iPads and watching Italian brain rot, which is really scary to me. But like back in my day, you know, I'm not that old, I promise. I'm only 20. You know, you would get the new Hot Wheels or whatever, and you would flex to your friends about it. But like in a week or two, you would forget about it because either, you know, a different kid at school would have a newer version of it, or you would leave the Hot Wheels car in a sandbox for the night and it would be not functioning the best after that. Now, one thing that I really want to point out about the lyrics of this song specifically is the line, oh, here we go again. It's not the first time that this has happened. She's been through similar scenarios before, but she is still in denial. Also, this is one of those Taylor Swift songs that I feel like does belong in the category of like, oh, and another thing, because this outro, she had a lot of things to say. Just say when, I'll play again. He was my best friend down at the Sandlot. I felt more when we played pretend than with all the cans, because he took me out of my box, stole my tortured heart, left all these broken parts, told me I'm better off, but I'm not.
He was my best friend, and that was the worst part.
Taylor event sessions, always appreciated in this household. This also communicates to me a lack of maturity in this person, lack of the ability to have a mature relationship. Instead, he just runs and he abandons, you know, the toy that he broke. Also, Taylor did manage to teach us a couple new words with this song. I also love that this has kind of like become her brand now, that whenever Taylor Swift drops an album, you have to have a dictionary by your side, because otherwise you're not gonna understand some of the songs. We've seen that in Folklore, we saw that in Evermore, slightly less in Midnights, but as well. And now we're back at it again with Tortured Poets. So this time the words were rivulets, which is a stream, or basically in this case, a stream of tears, and litany, which is a tedious recital or repetitive series of petitions. Okay, smartass, flexing your vocabulary at me. Girl, I am not a native English speaker. I don't know what the hell this means. But I think that this song is incredible, and I feel like it could have been like one of those silent hits off of this album. And I'm actually kind of sad that it wasn't. Like, I feel like it would be a great, like, maybe not Cruel Summer situation, but I feel like it would be a great TikTok trend or something like that. I just feel like this song deserved a little bit more love, because it's a big standout on the album.
It's down bad, waking up in blood, staring at the sky, come back and pick me up.
There are some songs that just stay in your head and refuse to leave. And thanks to its production, Down Bad is definitely one of these songs. I mean, those first few seconds sold me immediately. It tells a story of being love bombed and then abandoned literally right after. It does that through the metaphors of alien abduction, which is such a cool concept to use in a song. Like, I'm sorry, we've seen that before. It's not like she invaded. She didn't invade anybody. It's not like she invented. Words are not my friends. Today It's not like she invented the theme of alien abduction in music. We've seen that before, but I feel like it's so effective here. It's This song also gives us another theme for this album, which I think is a little more prevalent in the anthology, which would be immaturity. She sings, "Fuck it if I can't have him," and it almost feels childish. But I feel like we also see that in other songs through slightly different angles. I would personally argue that So High School is a good example of that teenage petulance, despite the fact that its message is obviously radically different. She recognizes the fact that she's being childish, she's being crazy, but ultimately she just doesn't give a flying fuck, because that is the only way to express the insanity of this relationship. She gets dramatic with it, says that she might almost die because of how emotionally overwhelming this breakup can be. Lyrically, I would say that this song is pretty straightforward, but that doesn't mean that its bridge didn't leave me speechless. When she says, "How dare you say that it's," and cuts the line before she says the word over, it's like she doesn't want to believe that things actually ended. It's subtle things like that that sell me on an album. I'll build you a fort on some planet where they can all understand it. This also stems back to the online backlash against this relationship. She's willing to do whatever it takes to keep this person, even facing, media scrutiny, but he just runs away back into space in his little alien spaceship. And now I'm imagining Maddie Healy as an alien. Oh. It's really hot today and I can barely think or speak, so just bear with me. I am so sorry. But back to the song. I really adore it. But I think what really changed my perception of it was seeing it live at the Eras Tour. That was one of the highlights of the evening for me. The visuals for Down Bad are probably amongst the best for the entirety of the Eras Tour, and every visual for the Eras Tour is banging, especially for the Tortured Poets Department section. These visuals were incredible. I feel so lucky to have witnessed that. I could literally make a whole essay on this song, but I do feel like we have to move on to a track 5. So yay, let's get sad again.
So long, London.
The church choir vibes that we have in this song in the first, few seconds, that might be one of my favorite like soundscapes that we get. It's so gorgeous. But like So Long London does a lot of things musically that I really adore. These choir-like moments very quickly drop off and we get to this like weirdly fast-paced production that, despite the pace, still manages to be really somber. It feels like we are actively running away from something almost. The tone that she sings in is very low and it's not energetic at all. And I feel like that in and of itself can have meaning. She's exhausted by all of these emotionals and all of this turmoil, but also the breakup happens like this. In one conversation, she tore down the whole sky. I mean, no wonder why this is a track 5. Like, come on. This is so sad on every single corner. Every breath feels like the rarest air. When you're not sure if he wants to be there. Actually, criminal. The production also works wonders to enhance that sort of uncertainty, the feeling and the sadness. And I love the way that it's done. So my favorite like trick production wise that is done here is how the volume of the production suddenly drops off for a certain subset of lines, making you focus so much more on the lyrics that you're hearing. It's not just the musical landscape that's telling the story now. Now is the time that you're focusing on the words that you're hearing.
You swore that you loved me, but where were the clues?
I don't think I've honestly talked enough about the lyrics to this one, but like the problem with So Long London as a track 5 is I feel like the lyrics to this one have been overanalyzed to death already online, and I don't know if I can add anything to them. And also there's just so many incredible lyrics. Like, again, this is a song that could get a video of its own. I don't think ideas like that are safe for me because I might let us do it. But okay, let me try to reinterpret some of them. I stopped CPR after all, it's no use. The spirit was gone, we would never come to. And I'm pissed off, you let me give you all that you for free. So there's no point in doing the CPR if the relationship is already dead and the spirit is gone, moving on to the afterlife. Also the last line, she spent so much energy trying to make this relationship work, but it just all fell apart in the end. It feels almost like a waste of energy. My white knuckle dying grip, holding tight to a quiet resentment. Like, this is pure pain. Before I had to go, be free. Had to go? Okay, stick with me here for a second, but this reminds me of a film that I recently watched with my parents called Shawshank. By the way, incredible film. Go and watch it if you haven't already. But basically, this is a film about prison and life in prison. And there is this character of Brooks, who is an older man who basically spent his entire life in prison. And when he gets, the notice that he's going to be released, he is afraid of having to adapt to society outside of prison, because inside of prison, there's this like almost like a different universe that he's so used to that it's now scary to just suddenly abandon it. And in a massive like act of desperation, he almost tried to kill one of his inmates, but basically he ends up being released. He works a little after he gets released, and then he ends his life because he just felt like he couldn't fit in. He had to go be free and did not like it at all. He was forced to have freedom. That metaphor also, in my opinion, comes back to Fresh Out the Slammer as well, but we'll get there. I am really happy that this is followed by something like But Daddy I Love Him, because after hearing this, man, you're gonna be depressed. We get the all too well to 22 transition here, and it's honestly perfect. This was the song of this album for me after my initial listen. Well, until I found out about the anthology, but still. This song is a massive critique of fan media, and actually no, media as a whole, regarding the whole Maddie situation and how everybody was putting out think pieces about that. Which, can we talk about that a little? You people are really fucking weird at times. Like, genuinely, I understand not liking him, and I personally don't like him either, but like, come on. I feel like sometimes internet users just have to go outside, touch some grass. Doesn't hurt, by the way, can confirm myself. I love grass. I don't know what the point of that sentence was, but okay. But either way, go and touch some grass if you are over here making think pieces about why Taylor Swift is now cancelled because she's dating Matty Healy. I was not giving into that behavior. I'm sorry. It was a lot, and I think it was completely unnecessary. But back to Taylor, she's admitting that she's crazy for liking him, but also doesn't care. And it's very clear with this song's narrative is that we are the Sarahs and Hannahs. We are the judgy townsfolk. We are the parents that won't let her enjoy loving this man. This feels to me like a comeback of like the older Taylor. This is so fearless coded, but also I do feel like there are like little drops of like red in there. And also obviously a bit of 1989 to create this like country leaning pop banger with a slight amount of savagery. This bridge is also one of my absolute favorites on the entire record. It's so cathartic. However, I've also found a sort of new way to interpret this song, which I don't know if you guys are gonna like this, but like, okay, I'm just gonna say what I think. So basically, there is this thing in sociological psychology, which is called a post-decision dissonance. This basically entails the need to justify an action after you've committed to it because you maybe are feeling like maybe that wasn't the best choice or you could have done something differently, but now that it's done, you have to stand by it. And so you make up excuses or you create arguments to prove that actually, no, you were correct in that decision and everybody else around you is wrong. So for example, you chose to, I don't know, play a game on Roblox instead of studying for an exam, but actually that was a good thing to do because it was a night before the exam, so you wouldn't have learned anything else. Your brain already wasn't working. You needed to relax before the exam. I think that's a good example. So you basically start making excuses to make your behavior more justifiable for others. And so obviously I could see this being like a potential lens through which you can interpret this song. And I'm actually going to be using the post-decision dissonance term in a few more songs later down the line, but again, we're going to get there. But anyway, this is just a pure rush of adrenaline every time you hear it. Just imagine like running through the fields and blasting this on your headphones while like the wind is in your hair. Like that experience would genuinely probably be a healing experience for me. Also, Taylor helps us further expand our dictionary by including words like sanctimoniously, soliloquies, and vipers. Thanks. My personal favorite lyric from the entire album, though, has to be, if all you want is great for me, then it's just white noise, and it's just my choice. I have to give tens when tens are due.
Give her her tens. Give her what she's... That's one thing about me. I give tens where tens are due. I tell if you look crazy. I'll tell if you look stupid.
That is the most mind your own business line I've ever seen in my life. Like, let me live and stop forcing your ideas onto me. But Daddy, I Love Him is kind of like a pride anthem in a way. Do you guys see the vision? Because I definitely see the vision. Like this line to me, as a queer person, if that's not the encapsulation of how it is like to be queer, I don't know what is. Like low-key, I really relate to this song like a lot. Oh, and also, who could forget the ultimate jump scare? In my opinion, this singular line beat out the shock that I initially felt when I first heard Midnight Rain. I thought that that was the most like shocking song Taylor has ever put out. And then she was like, hold my beer. I have another track 6 that's going to wake you from your slumber. Genius. Genius, genius, genius. And clap.
And clap. Woo! Fresh out the slammer, I know who my first call will be to.
Fresh Out the Slammer is probably the song that received the weirdest reception from this album. Like, I don't know. I feel like just nobody talked about it, and many people were very, very confused by it. It was a whole thing. At my initial listen, I didn't necessarily pay much attention to it, but I gotta be honest, this kind of grew on me. When it comes to musical scenery, this song is like no other on this album. The Western theme here with a title like Fresh Out the Slammer fits so well. It creates such a cool imagery to me. This song paints a clear timeline of relationships and situations that Taylor ended up in. I think that's what this song is oftentimes reduced to. There's that, and of course the tempo change. But the lyrics in this one, low-key, this is an underrated gem. Another summer taking cover, Rolling Thunder, he don't understand me. The Rolling Thunder part specifically is incredible to me. Basically, how I see this is that with thunders, you first see them for a couple seconds and only then you're able to hear them after like a bit of a delay, which basically means that she saw the thunder, aka the signs that the breakup was about to happen, and then heard the rumble, which was the eventual breakup. The jail imagery we see throughout this track as well, with lines like handcuffed to the spell I was under for just 1 hour of sunshine, is, if somebody is talking about a relationship like this, I think it's clear that it wasn't the healthiest. Years of labor, locks and ceilings in the shade of how he was feeling. Another banger line. This kind of shows the effort to save the relationship despite him being gray and blue, which is obviously mentioned in other songs on this album as well. That shade is also a direct opposite here of the 1 hour of sunshine that we see mentioned earlier. Toss the ashes off the ledge here also I thought was interesting, considering that we see a similar lyric in You're Losing Me. There she sings, I'm getting tired even for a phoenix always rising from the ashes. So if she's tossing the ashes off the ledge, that means she's officially given up. But I'm gonna be all right. I did my time. She spent years trying to make it work, but it just didn't. It refused to live. It's kind of self-reassuring, telling herself that she did all that she could do to save this relationship. Now, I mentioned it in the beginning, now I'm mentioning it again, the tempo change.
Running to the house, we still wait up in that porch light.
I think that this tempo change, despite the fact that it confused some people, actually, if you look at the lyrics, it makes a lot of sense. And if you look at the timeline of events, it makes even more sense. This song is meant to be a bridge between two different separate relationships. That change symbolizes a metaphorical but also like actual change in scenery. So obviously those two different places that Taylor is in are gonna sound differently from each other. We are no longer in jail. We escaped our relationship and now we are entering a completely different environment. So it makes sense for that environment's ambience to be different. That is a genius move. So overall, I find this song to be quite genius and honestly kind of overlooked when it comes to its meaning and the work put into it. Like many people just like really treat it as like some random album track, which it's definitely not. Listen, Fresh Out the Slammer, you will always be famous.
Florida is one hell of a drug.
Florida is the song that probably leaves the biggest impression after you are done listening to this album. And I mean, no wonder why. It's crazy good. We finally got that Florence and Taylor collab and it was honestly life-changing. This song being right after Fresh Out the Slammer is also really incredibly smart track listing, considering that this song is about the time period between the two relationships. So if we are keeping up with the timeline, it takes place directly like during Fresh Out the Slammer. The instrumentation here still hints at this sort of Western feel. It almost sounds like a music that you would hear in movies where there's like a mirage scene at the desert. You know what I mean, hopefully. That ties in with some of the lines pretty well. You can beat the heat if you beat the charges too. Beating the heat, which is an expression that is used in, hot places, but also beating the heat as in escaping attention, I guess. It could be both at the same time, especially considering that it's followed by beating the charges, aka beating accusations. We've also seen drugs mentioned throughout this album, and now we get a more direct reference to them because Florida is one hell of a drug. This refers to the escape that drugs can provide for people, and Florida is seen as the path of escapism. You just want to flee, leave your old life behind, and just move on. But just like all of the other drugs, this is just a temporary solution. And it's also a solution that can be damaging. Now, obviously, the title and the place also refers to the Eras Tour, as Tampa, Florida was the first date Taylor played after the breakup news with, her and Joe came out. But here, it's not a place anymore. That's what I really love about Taylor's songwriting, is she will give you a metaphor, but then she's gonna use it in like a plethora of different ways. And that is incredible to see every single time. We hear Florence's verse, which immediately references Hurricane Florence from 2018, which caused massive damage to the southeastern United States. And obviously, storms can be related to a relationship in this case. So she is barricading herself in the bathroom with a bottle of wine to just wait out the uncertain times. She's also trying to seem unbothered and almost tries to dare the storm to take her away. But then again, here, wine is probably used to like calm the emotions and reach a state of not really caring. The storm probably could cause like a lot more damage if the mind wasn't numbed down by, the wine. She goes on to describe Florida with more lines that seem to relate a little bit more to Nobody No Crime, which we see on Evermore. Then we see her say, "So I did my best to lay to rest all of the bodies that ever laid on my body." Then these bodies sink into a swamp, which in my opinion is like a metaphor for like a void, a nothingness into which we put like our repressed memories. Also, side note, apparently Florida is like known for having swamps, so that could also be a meaning here. The line, "Is that a bad thing to say in a song?" is actually one of my favorite lyrics of the entire album, because this can be interpreted in so many different ways. One that I landed on was how the public kind of expects different relationships to be portrayed through music. It's the "you wronged me, you cheated, and now I'm sad, I hate you," that sort of thing. But just making a song about having to, escape everything and trying to move on feels like a more original idea of how to portray the aftermath of a relationship. It's almost like they are smirking at you and like laughing because they're doing something to kind of like defy your expectations of how a Taylor Swift song is gonna be talking about moving away from a relationship. This bridge is heavenly. Their voices together, the high notes, the urgency that you feel. My jaw was on the fucking floor for the entire duration of the song. That bridge also reinforces some of the ideas we've seen before in this song, specifically the need of escape mainly, but it gives it more a rapid tempo, and that by result makes the situation seem like twice as urgent. This song is one of the most dramatic things I've ever heard from Taylor, but I love it. Florence being on this song also gives it such a cool vibe. I love these two together. Their combination was truly killer. Like this is one of the best songs in both of their discographies. I stand by that. You can crucify me in the comments, but I stand by that. I could actually talk about this song for a day. This song is incredible, but unfortunately I do have to move on. Well, actually, I don't know if unfortunately is the right word to describe this moment, because now we are talking about one of the best songs to be created in the history of music, aka Guilty as Sin. The melody. It's so simple, but it's so goddamn addictive. Like, I find myself bopping to this from the very first moment I hear that drum. It's perfection. If you listen to Guilty as Sin and you don't turn into that video of Scarlett Johansson dancing, you're doing it wrong. You have to reevaluate, you have to listen to the song again, and just, fix your mistakes. The main topic of the song is kind of very easy to see through its lyrics, but as with other songs, I do want to delve in deeper. Obviously, the song starts with a reference to Downtown Lights by the Blue Nile, which the 1975 sampled on their song, which I think was called I Love It If We Made It. I am not a 1975 fan. I don't know their discography, so this is just literally taken off of the internet. I don't know if this is correct information. Correct me in the comments if I am wrong though. This cage was once just fine. Am I allowed to cry? Crying because you left a cage is actually something that we can interpret so many ways as well. And we also kind of saw that before, you know, in So Long London, the I had to go be free. This is kind of that similar theme. For example, leaving a hometown to say pursue a career is something that you have to do, but you also leave behind everything that you knew before. So in a way, leaving a cage, but at the same time, that's a cage that you've gotten used to. This can also refer to like societal norms that we see broken in, for example, But Daddy I Love Him. They are a cage that could provide comfort maybe. And despite the fact that she was so like ready to break these norms, now she could be, you know, missing them. This apparently relates to Kate Chopin's The Awakening, which delves into several themes. The protagonist finds freedom in affairs, but when they eventually end, she wants to return to the life that she lived before. Instead, she yearns for this tryst with this person that she keeps on imagining. This entire chorus is just her imagination. She's recalling things she never did. But then again, because they never did them, can she be considered guilty as sin? Can she be judged by the Twitter blue checkmarked paying people? I mean, we saw that literally happened, so I guess yeah. She clearly shows like a contraposition of what the public thought of this relationship and how she felt while she was in it. She kept her feelings locked in a vault, aka away from the public eye. Just like some of the songs that we would get on the re-recording of her previous albums. She wants this person, but yet nothing really comes out of this relationship, yet she's still being judged for it. Someone told me there's no such thing as bad thoughts. Only your actions talk. But she is still receiving criticism for those thoughts, even if no action actually happened. Taylor is clearly aware of that, as we see later in the bridge. No matter how the relationship actually looks like, she's still going to get crucified for it and for the fact that she's committing to it. She says that the crowd actually doesn't care about how this new relationship looks like and if she's happy in it. They just want her to commit to this one person for eternity and force her into a long suffering propriety. I think this also relates back to Lavender Haze. A lot of people seem to want this like 1950s shit out of her. So here lies the question, is she guilty as sin then? And when you see the evidence, I feel like it's kind of clear that she is not. She almost leaves the evidence on the table and is like, hey, this is how I look like. Do I look guilty as sin to you now? And no, you do not. Low-key, this song is another one, and I've said it already a couple times in this video that I could just make a whole video about. I find this song so fascinating from the lyrical standpoint, but also this music. I cannot help but feel that we are kind of robbed of a Guilty as Sin performance at the Eras tour. I mean, of course it was performed as a surprise song, but like I would have loved to have seen this with like a visual, some choreo, a prop maybe. Like I feel like this should have been a placeholder in the Eras Tour setlist for the Tortured Poets Department section. Especially that key change in the last chorus. That is a moment that is deserving to be seen by millions. Like, music was just invented thanks to that key change. I rest my case. Who's Afraid of Little Old Me, aka the song that launched 1,000 think pieces on Twitter. Although I gotta say, I hate it here, and so High School did kind of reheat the nachos of Who's Afraid of Little Old Me when they later got released and we got to hear them and see their lyrics. They caused a lot of outrage as well, but Who's Afraid of Little Old Me was the original Tortured Poets Department song that upset everybody. This is kind of like the... I don't want to say it, but like the villain era song of this album. It feels like Taylor is just venting about so many of the things that bother her, about how the media portrays her. This song is overly dramatic. Yes, but it's also overly dramatic for a reason. Sometimes you gotta be more theatrical with the way you explain things for other people to get it. And sometimes even that isn't enough, because clearly the point of the song went over everybody's head. And instead we saw the response that we saw during the release week. It was really fun to be on Twitter that day. Low-key, I should be recompensated for that. Because yes, for sure, Taylor means that she was raised in an actual asylum. That's for sure what she means. Sometimes I just look at moments like these in the internet and I'm like, y'all are just pretending to be stupid for no apparent reason. And I'm not trying to be mean here, but like, this is clearly not supposed to be taken literally. This entire song is a hyperbole. It's a hyperbole put to music. And you are over there arguing whether Taylor Swift was raised in an actual mental asylum. You wouldn't last an hour in the asylum where they raised me. I don't think this is a controversial opinion when I say that this is clearly meant to be about like the music industry and the landscape of it. It's difficult to survive in that environment. It's incredibly toxic. And most of us probably don't have the balls to thrive in that industry. You can look at this asylum as a sort of like description of the place that we see in the Fortnight music video too. This specific controversy was quite stupid. And so I just kind of want to move on from it. Because I don't want to think about that any longer. Let's talk about other stuff that we see in this song. Obviously, the musical highlight of the song is the scream in the chorus, which is incredible. The chorus outro is also an incredible moment too. I also feel like this song shined so well on the Eurostore stage. Like that, specifically that outro is the moment of that performance. And the screams that she would do for some of the later lines were, ooh, so good. Hearing that live was a genuinely incredible experience. If you wanted me dead, you should have just said, nothing makes me feel more alive. This to me relates to Reputation and how, well, people tried, but no one could fully get rid of her. She just got more motivation to show some people where the place was, and she sure as hell did do that. So I leap from the gallows and I levitate down your street, crush the party like a record scratch as I scream, who's afraid of little old me? I love this metaphor because it low-key seems like sometimes people see Taylor and her fans as some sort of like looming danger on the horizon. We saw that very clearly when the Eras Tour would travel to different cities. And I personally experienced this when the Eras Tour arrived to Warsaw. There was that like semi-viral tweet during the week of the Eras Tour in Poland where like a 30 or 40 even year old guy posted a picture on Twitter with like his newly bought firearm or something like that and captioned it, "Ready for the Eras Tour Warsaw," especially considering what happened literally in the next city, which was Vienna. Yeah, that was a lot. I'm gonna try to find that tweet and post. Actually, I'm not gonna, because I don't want to be reminded of that anymore. But I genuinely hope that somebody forced that guy to delete this, because seeing that was kind of insane. Like, how is Taylor Swift coming to your city, performing in a stadium and singing her songs about her own life, and also, you know, gathering crowds, having people just have fun in the stadium? How is that a bad thing? How is that something that your response should be violence to? That was probably meant to be a joke, but like, that is not a joke to me. Like, I don't find humor that actively like threatens somebody funny. Like, some of you people are actually disgusting. It's not like Taylor and her fans are like actively like destroying cities. She doesn't have an army under her command. She has fans, but it's not like we are like a military force. Let people enjoy the music that they're listening to. Like, is that so much to ask for? Is it a wonder I broke? Let's hear one more joke. Then we could all just laugh until I cry. So I think this could be related to that horrible Golden Globes monologue, where obviously, you had that guy. He made a couple very interesting jokes about, Taylor. He also went after Barbie, and that was really unfunny. But the main thing that people seemed to took away from that night regarding Taylor was how she reacted to that joke when she just took a sip of her drink.
There's just more to go to here.
Like, that was an overreaction. Mind you, a couple years back, we had Will Smith slap somebody because he didn't like a joke, and she's overreacting. Put narcotics into all of my songs, and that's why you're still singing along. It's crazy because I am convinced that this is true. Like, she does put narcotics in her music because how is it so damn addictive? But I love how the only explanation given for the phenomenon that are Swifties is narcotics. I low-key find this so hilarious. Overall, this is not my favorite song on this album. It's not my favorite at all, but I think it shows some very, very clear flaws in the way that people think about Taylor or the legacy that she's built. And I do think that people should listen to it with a little bit more of like an open mind, I guess, because it is fairly straightforward and easy to understand if you just give it a shot and don't try to turn this into like some sort of Twitter moment.
I can fix him, no, really, I can.
I Can Fix Him, No Really, I Can is the 11th track off of this album. This is one of those more like movie-like songs, kind of in the same vein as, for example, Fresh Out the Slam. And also, this is one of those songs on this album that I feel like not many people connect to. And I kind of understand why. I don't think that this song is too big of a standout for me, but I do still find some very interesting things about it. There's a lot of intrigue in this song. It almost feels like a soundtrack to like a detective movie or some sort. There is this sense of danger to this song, which relates very well to the topic of it, which is being in a relationship with a quote unquote dangerous man that she is certain she can fix. Which, no, spoiler alert, girl, you cannot. Run. So this is one of my favorite examples of Taylor creating a narrative in a song and then switching it around at the very last second. This time the last line of this song is, "Whoa, maybe I can't." That leaves such a different impression after listening and completely flips the meaning of the song, which I love. That is actually probably my favorite part of the song. This is kind of like the But Daddy I Love Him 2.0. And it also does acknowledge some of the public upset around that relationship. He might be a pretty, not the best of people, but she is certain that she can fix him. No, really, she can. This is another case of that post-decision dissonance, which I talked about before with, for example, But Daddy I Love Him. They shake their heads saying, God help her, when I tell them he's my man. But your good Lord doesn't need to lift a finger. I can fix him. No, really, I can. Yes, he's a mess, but she has the power to fix him. And that's the argument that she is standing by. It's like, no, trust me, I got this. You don't, but like, cool, I guess. She's already committed to this decision, so now she has to come up with some sort of like facade, but it seems like she's more trying to convince herself rather than others, like, because it's not working on us, and clearly it doesn't work on Taylor either. The dopamine races through his brain on a 6-lane Texas highway. His hand so calloused from his pistol softly traces hearts on my face. The pen game. I love how all of these lines are just a reference to the fact that the guy she's dating in this time period is a musician. 6-lane highway, calloused hands, like all of that refers to being a guitar player. And also I love how, a guitar is treated like a weapon here. Like Taylor herself has some experience with the, oh, don't break up with her, she's gonna write songs about you. So she knows that just picking up a guitar is a powerful gesture and she can make your life living hell if she picks up that guitar. I just visualize her like literally taking a guitar and then just going like bonk.
Is somebody downstairs?
Oh, God, Meg, you startled me. I'm sorry.
Maybe she should have done that low-key. That shows you that a guitar can be just as effective as a gun. And I could see it from a mile away. A perfect case for my certain skill set. As in the skill set of being a songwriter, because it's the worst of the men that she writes the best. The mind of this woman. I don't listen to this song very often, but I actually really appreciate the opportunity of getting to read more about it and analyze it more, because it does add that more context. And previously I didn't appreciate this song enough. I feel like it's still not gonna be like high up my ranking, but I feel like I understand it so much more, and I actually found like that more depth in it that I previously didn't see. So I think this is a great song, specifically from that lyrical point of view. So to summarize, not my favorite song, but when you get to actually like analyzing it, it's quite fun to talk about.
You're the loss of my life.
LOML is the 12th track on this album, and this one is just heartbreak put into music. That piano intro itself is almost like a warning. Like, you hear that and like, uh-oh, we are depressed again. Musically, the song is very toned down. It's just a piano and some ambience, but I think it works very well. This is also one of those switch the meaning of the song at the last minute moments, which I love. LOML means love of my life, but in here it stands for loss of my life. Just like So Long London, this song is just heartbreaking at every front. Like, every single lyric of this song is just, it has so many layers to it. But I'm gonna focus on a couple of my favorite lyrics of this song. Who's gonna stop us from waltzing back into rekindled flames if we know the steps anyway? I love this metaphor specifically because the metaphor of the dancing is used later on in one of the anthology songs, namely How Did It End? Which, by the way, spoiler alert, I'm gonna have a lot to say about that song when we get to that video about the anthology. But I love that dancing is a theme that we see throughout this album. I think there's so much meaning to that. It's like dancing through life. Jonathan Bailey mentioned.
Blah, blah, blah. Proper name, place name, backstory stuff.
It's a metaphor for a relationship because most dances require, you to have a partner. I think we see this metaphor be used slightly more interestingly in How Did It End? But I do want to highlight this line here. We know the steps anyway, but we could just waltz right into the flames again. But the flames can also burn you. Still alive, killing time at the cemetery, never quite buried. The relationship is already dying, and you can see the signs of it, but it's not dead yet. It's that weird period that you just don't really know how to feel about. The end is almost like a looming threat on the horizon. And all at once, the ink bleeds. A conman sells a fool a get love quick scheme. This relates back to Reputation, the ink bleeding, aka a black substance, aka Reputation. I think that's a pretty clear connection there. But it's also a metaphor of hurt. We also see the ink metaphor be mentioned in the prologue as well. So I really love how that ties back to the information that we read in the beginning. That I love stuff like this. She was at her lowest during Reputation, but then she found love, and this could show the sort of like desperation to have someone next to you who will understand you while you're going through all of that like turbulent time of your life and everybody seems to be against you. Oh, what a valiant roar, what a bland goodbye. The coward claiming he was a lion. This man was afraid of commitment. He showed up like a hero, arriving on a white horse, if you will, but then turned out to be just a cowardly lion in the end. Also, wicked reference number 2 in this song. But the undoubtedly best line of this entire song is, and I'll see it until I die. You're the loss of my life. I mean, do I even have to say anything? Like, we've seen before that she sacrificed so much for this relationship, and it all ends up just feeling like a waste of time, waste of commitment. It's heartbreaking. Like, every line of the song is absolutely gut-wrenching. Again, don't listen to this song too often because, again, very, very, very sad. But I think that it's a beautifully written piece of music.
'Cause I can do it with a broken heart.
I Can Do It with a Broken Heart, aka The New Cruel Summer, is track 13. And what I mean by that is not that it was like received very well by the general public. I mean, it was a single and I think it charted pretty well. What I mean by that mostly is that it became like a new anthem for the Eras Tour, the same way that Cruel Summer was an anthem for the Eras Tour before the Tortured Poets was released. Oh, I missed the Eras Tour. It was so much fun. This song is obviously about dealing with all of the heartbreak and depression, whilst also being at the most prominent time of your career ever, being on the biggest tour of all time. This is a lot to deal with, and I think a song like this can be needed to like blow off some of that steam. And as a result, Taylor created an anthem for literally everybody who struggles with something but just has to, you know, keep a smile on their face while they're going through it. I listened to this song so much whilst I was, for example, preparing for my final exams in high school and also during all of my exam periods in uni. This song is hella relatable. With this song, I think that the lyrics are important, and I'll talk about some of them, but I actually think what's more important is the music video and, of course, the Eurostore performance. It's very cabaret inspired, which I love, but it's also like an actual live reenactment of having to get on that stage every day whilst also not feeling very well. She made theater out of it. She made a performance out of it, so it doesn't feel like that pressing of an issue anymore. But I think it's a great commentary on just life in general. Sometimes you just have to show up, chin up, and just get through it and serve while you're also not feeling the best. And then the music video. Okay, stick with me here, but Taylor has spoken about how fans can change a meaning of a song for her. Mainly, that example was typically All Too Well, which is a very sad song. And then she can now sing it with a full-on smile on her face because she sees thousands of people screaming back the lyrics at her, and they've kind of changed the meaning of All Too Well to her. And in this music video, it almost seems like she's healed from that experience partially, thanks to being on tour and getting to perform for us. But okay, some of my favorite lyrics on the song include, obviously, I cry a lot, but I am so productive. It's an art. I mean, come on. We've all felt that way at some point in our lives. Like everybody. This is one of the most relatable lines I've ever seen in my life. I'm sure I can pass this test. It's about that difficult period where she just had to get through it, you know, get on that stage, perform. But it's clear that she also believes that she is able to do it. She's not, well, she is forcing herself to do it, but it's not like she lacks the strength to actually accomplish it. Because I'm miserable and nobody even knows. Try to come for my job. This outro is so perfect. I think it addresses the media scrutiny, but also wraps up the song with like a cherry on top. She shows us throughout this song that she's going through it, but we don't know this until we finally do get, the news about her and Joe breaking up. But also, like, look at her. She embarked on one of the biggest tours of all time, whilst also being absolutely heartbroken, and, still managed to absolutely take her career to a place that seems unachievable for millions. You can try and come for her job, but the material is there, and it's undeniable that she is a professional first and she is a star. Truly, like, you can't come for her. I mean, you can, but it's kind of pointless.
A message to the smallest man who ever lived.
The smallest man who ever lived, aka the best group therapy session I've ever had. Truly, screaming this at the top of my lungs at PGE Narodowy was one of the highlights of my life, and definitely one of the highlights of that evening. I love when Taylor just has some shit to say. The first part of the song is very muted. It feels like she's actively holding back. It also feels very retrospective. She's almost like recalling the events of this relationship. And then the actual like raw emotion and frustration comes with the bridge. She erupts into this and one more thing kind of song, and I love it. This song shows us that the only thing that Taylor truly wants out of this person is clarity. I just want to know if rusting my sparkling summer was the goal. But also, it's clear that she doesn't want to be next to this person. He hurt her, and the only thing she wants to do is maybe like deliver a message, get that clarity. But it's clear that she wants nothing to do with this person anymore. Were you writing a book where you're a sleeper cell spy? In 50 years, will all of these be declassified? This is genius to me because it shows the sort of paranoia that could develop in Taylor after how many times the media have gone after her. It just seems like this whole relationship was a setup to get her name into more thumbnails and headlines. And the 50 years, so this apparently refers to the fact that many documents in America expire, okay, rude, after 50 years and are declassified afterwards. So if their relationship was documented somehow, aka documented by the media, the repercussions of these relationships are not going to stop until like 50 years afterwards. You're kicked out the stage lights, but you're still performing. I love this line because Maddie apparently is known for kicking stage equipment, which rude, by the way. But also, this whole relationship feels like a performance. He shows up, love bombs her, and then leaves the moment the spotlight is set on them. This could also mean that once the media found out, he immediately dipped. One of the highlights in this bridge also is how the backing vocals are like doubled when Taylor sings the "Good Riddance" line. Incredible. Outside of this bridge, I gotta admit, you didn't measure up in any measure of a man is a crazy thing to say. Obviously, this can be meant as like chivalry or whatever, but if you take this literally, I love when Taylor gets savage. I also think that this song wraps up really well the whole Maddie thing. Well, I mean, for this album, because we do hear about that relationship a little bit more in the anthology, but for this album, I think it does a great job of like just ending the conversation. And it's also clear that this is not an ending where Taylor just moves on. Well, I mean, she does, but she doesn't forgive and she doesn't forget. I mean, we see a quote from her when she literally says that about, I think it was about the Kimya feud.
You know, people go on and on about like you have to forgive and forget to move past something. No, you don't. You don't have to forgive and you don't have to forget to move on.
Also, I think that holding grudges is okay. So I am perfectly fine with that. Anyway, the second to last song on this album is a complete 180 narrative-wise, and I think it's time to talk about The Alchemy. This is such a cute song. I also love that this was a trend during the Olympics too. You could see the edits on TikTok. It was so much fun. This song being at the end of the album makes a lot of sense because we see a lot of turmoil related to relationships. We see a lot of heartbreak, depression. And then this song comes in like a ray of sunshine. And it's like a reassurance that everything is actually okay. This is the begin again of this album. And I love that. What if I told you I'm back? The hospital was a drag. So this refers to the mental hospital we just had a full-on tour of. But listen, she's out. Honestly, who are we to fight the alchemy? The alchemy is the art of transforming other metals into gold. And the fact that this is a metaphor for love. Genius, 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 genius. A relationship can be like a plain piece of metal. It can feel forced or not strong enough. But when the alchemy strikes and turns it into gold, how do you say no? These blokes warm the benches. We've been on a winning streak. I love how this is just subtle shade towards Joe and Maddie because both of them are British and blokes is like a British slang word. I love Shady Taylor. They were warming up the benches for the eventual winner to come and win her heart. There was no change trying to be greatest in the league. Where's the trophy? He just comes running over to me. I love this imagery. That's what Taylor does the best, is set a scene perfectly. It feels like a movie scene. It feels like I'm watching a big on like victorious coming of age movie moment where we see like a couple finally come together on a pitch, you know, they kiss, there's confetti around them. It's so beautiful. I also love the final chorus and how it sounds. There's this rush of endorphins, but like put to music. I initially didn't pay much attention to this song because it was such a departure from the themes that we've seen throughout this album before that it just kind of like, I don't know, I guess it got lost on me. But I would say that I did start paying attention to it, probably partially thanks to the Olympics trend. I saw it and I was like, wait, hold on, this is a cute song. And I think that's lovely. But there is one more song on the Tortured Poets Department that I think closes this album in an incredible fashion.
You look like Clara Bow.
Clara Bow is the 16th track and it closes off the first half of the album, and I love this song. I think it's so poignant to end an 11th studio album from somebody like Taylor Swift, who is such a massive star, with a song like this. So Clara Bow herself was a movie star who was the very first like it girl and transitioned from silent movies to the talkies. So she kind of like gained a voice during her career. Her fame did also cause her a tremendous amount of stress and problems. And her persona is here used as a comparison. And it starts off the entire song with the lines, "You look like Clara Bow, in this light, remarkable, all your life, did you know you'd be picked like a rose? She's picked like a rose, selected from a group of different girls to be like the next it girl on the basis of looking like somebody. This line later gets rephrased into you look like Stevie Nicks in 75, the hair and lips. Crowd goes wild at her fingertips. Half moonshine, a full eclipse. So this relates to Taylor herself, and this comparison is crazy because if you actually look up Stevie Nicks pictures from 75, she looks exactly like Taylor. It's uncanny. But also the fingertips line here is incredible because this is literally what Taylor would do during The Man at the Eras Tour, like point to a certain section of the crowd and they would all go crazy. I did that. It was very fun. I'm not trying to exaggerate, but I think I might die if I made it. This shows the immense stress of being in the spotlight, of making it. It's so much to take in that it feels too overwhelming and like an actual danger to your health. I think this whole song relates so much to songs we've heard like The Lucky One or Nothing New. And it's a very interesting commentary on specifically female artists and their place in the industry. The crown is stained, but you're the real queen. Flesh and blood amongst war machines. You're the new god we're worshipping, promised to be dazzling. The crown is stained by the previous it girls. She sees the marks that they've made on the industry and feels pressure because of that. She's the real person amongst this crowd of machines, aka the industry, which feels lifeless, cold, cruel, and like a machine that just spits out new artists to try and profit off of them. Beauty is a beast that roars, down on all fours, demanding more. Only when your girlish glow flickers just so do they let you know. It's hell on earth to be heavenly. Them's the breaks, they don't come gently. This whole bridge is about what we also see in Nothing New, which is the unrealistic beauty standards, but also it seems like they are set in stone, like they're just not going to change. It's just a fact that you have to deal with. And then we get to the last chorus. You look like Taylor Swift. In this light, we're loving it. You've got edge she never did. The future's bright. Dazzling. Now she's another person passing down the torch to younger artists. The cycle repeats, but I do think that there's more hopefulness in the statement. The new girls that come in get to be more confident, more themselves, and they can have a bigger personality than Taylor ever did whilst their age. You know, you can see just like Olivia Rodrigo, Sabrina Carpenter, Chapel Roan, all great examples of that. It's clear that they're gonna have more freedom, and that's what's important here. I also love this song for how soft it is. It feels very personal, very intimate, and it's a very stunning piece of music. And with that, we've reached the end of my analysis of the Tortured Poets Department by Taylor Swift.
And clap!
I am recording this part a little bit later because my microphone decided to turn off to make my life easier for the last 9 minutes of the recording. So guess this is take 2. Just in general, this album to me feels like 2 different things. Firstly, I would imagine this to be like a Taylor's version of the movie Inside Out. Like, think of it. Instead of the emotions of like joy, anger, disgust, I love that diva, by the way, we get Taylor and she kind of takes us on a trip through all of her insecurities and through all of the memories she's made throughout these last couple of years. And secondly, I would say that this album really feels like a therapy session. We perform relationship autopsies. We also see Taylor delve into events that are more recent, but also we see her address stuff from the past, like for example, events from around the Reputation era, and we see even more of that on the anthology part of this album. She revisits feelings that some people never expected her to talk about again. She is literally going insane. She's haunted by the ghosts of the past, and the art that comes out of that experience is not meant to conform to the general public's idea of what a Taylor Swift album should look like. And that's probably why this project didn't really click with many people outside of the Swiftie zeitgeist. It's so vulnerable, and to understand it more, I feel like you have to have a little bit more context, which a casual listener might not have. However, again, I don't see that as a bad thing. It's one of the most vulnerable pieces of art she's ever put out, and I, for one, am grateful for that because this album is absolutely incredible. And I especially love the anthology, but we're gonna get into that in a slightly different video. One last thing before I wrap up this video, and I know you've been sitting in here for a long time already. I promise this is gonna take a couple minutes, not more, but I do want to show you guys my full ranking of this album. Well, of course excluding the anthology, but I do want to show you guys my ranking of the standard version of the Tortured Poets Department. So at the very bottom, we have I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can, the Tortured Poets Department, and Who's Afraid of Little Me. So 16th place goes to I Can Fix Him, No Really I Can, and I don't really listen to that song much. I do, however, appreciate it more after having done this video. I feel like I've grown to appreciate it more thanks to it. And yeah, but like from 15th onwards, from the Tortured Poets Department onwards, those are all songs that I do listen to pretty frequently. However, TTPD itself it's a good song. I just don't really listen to it that much. And Who's Afraid of Little Me is this low because I just don't really listen to the studio version anymore. I just go back and rewatch the Eras Tour performance. Like the studio version is almost like lacking for me now. Having seen how this song looks like live, it's just, I guess that experience has kind of changed the way that I look at it. So in 13th, we have The Alchemy, 12th is Fresh Out the Slammer, and 11th is My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys. The Alchemy and Fresh Out the Slammer are definitely like some of my growers, I would say, because I didn't really appreciate them at first. But also, like, this is a stacked ranking. Like, I have to make some space for some of the songs that I personally adore a little bit more. And My Boy Only Breaks His Favorite Toys is this low because, hate to admit it, but I feel like it's kind of my fault because I did overplay it a lot and it was initially in my top 5 until I just kind of got bored of it because I listened to it so much. So that's why it's so low. Then 10th place is LOML, 9th is Clara Bow, and 8th is Fortnight. From 10th onwards, I would say these are all songs that I absolutely adore. I love them. It was really, really hard to rank this specific section because I know my top 3 very well. And I don't think that top 3 is going to be surprising to anybody. But like this mid section of the ranking was really hard to do. 7th is The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. 6th is So Long London. And 5th is I Can Do It With a Broken Heart. All bangers, no explanations needed, I feel like. 4th is Down Bad, and that leads us into the top 3, with 3rd place being But Daddy I Love Him. What can I say? I love that song. 2nd is Florida featuring Florence and the Machine. Again, perfection. And my favorite song off of this entire project is Guilty as Sin. I love this song in ways I have never loved a song before. Like, I am addicted. It's a problem at this point. But yeah, I have to stay true to myself. That is my favorite song on the entire project. Well, the standard edition of it. And yeah, this is my full ranking. I hopefully didn't upset anybody with it, but if you feel upset, let me know in the comments below. And this leads us into the end of this video. I recognize that it's been some time now, but I honestly really loved the opportunity to delve in deeper into a project like the Tortured Poets Department. I think that this was such a fun video to create, and I had a lot of fun making it, scripting it, and editing it probably. I mean, I haven't really done that yet, but I will eventually. And yeah, I want to thank you guys so much for watching till the very end. If you survived, please leave a comment. Please tell me what you thought of the video. I really, really appreciate all input, and I would be very, very grateful. I really can't wait to do more videos about, for example, other Taylor albums, specifically the anthology, but also maybe delving deep into other artists' discographies. I feel like it would be very interesting to take a look at like somebody like Noah Kahan, for example. And of course, there's going to be lots more things coming your way, excluding just my music commentary. So I hope that you stick around for that and that you will enjoy that content when it eventually comes around. But for now, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I love you very, very much. Thank you so much. Yeah, take care, and I will see you in a week's time. Bye.